bit more about what we do, our website is kcstem.org. So the students that have been invited to compete in these competitions are all Project Lead the Way students who have taken 4 years of courses in either engineering or biomedical science. And those courses culminate in a senior capstone course. So the engineering students take engineering design and development, and they go through the full design process over the course of the year. They work on one in-depth project starting in the fall and then culminating in the spring. The biomed students and the biomedical innovation class is a little bit different. They actually have a choice whether to create a product innovation, conduct an experiment, do a job shadow, or create a public service announcement in the public health arena. So in contrast to the engineering project, which is done in class and throughout the whole year, the biomed project is an independent assignment which is done outside of class and is just one of many projects that they do during the year. So if you happen to be judging the biomed competition, I just say that so that you have a better understanding of how much time they might have put into the project. They're not done to quite the same depth as the engineering project. Now in both classes though, the students develop an electronic portfolio to document their project, and that the project is then uploaded into the innovation portal. So we'll talk a little bit more about how the portal works, but it really is what's enabling technology for us to be able to do a competition at this scope because we anticipate having around 40 to 50 students submit to the biomed contest and around 70 to 75 projects submitted to the engineering competition. So we'll talk a little bit more specifically about how that judging happens during the training. So just to do a quick review of the timeline, you will be receiving 3 to 4 student portfolios in your account on April 1st, and all the reviews will need to be completed by April 15th. We do announce the winners at the April 18th Senior Showcase, and so it's a very tight turnaround. So if there's any chance, if you get, you have to go out of town unexpectedly, or if you have something that comes up, please let me know as soon as possible if you cannot judge your portfolios. Hopefully everybody will be able to fit them in. It's about a 2-week period, and we've tried to build in as many weekend days as we could, but just give me a heads up so I can plan accordingly. And then last year, the judges were actually very curious to see who the top winners were. So after the competition, I will give you access to be able to view the winning portfolios after the competition. So as always, we're very interested in your feedback. So feel free to touch base with me at any time during the judging. And then the last thing is, I should have a few judges from each of the competitions online, and I'm just, if you happen to be a biomed judge, please stay on the line for a few minutes at the end of the call because I just have a few comments about the rubric we'll be using for that competition. So at this point, I'm happy to introduce Elliot Mork, who is our primary contact at the National Project Lead the Way office, and he oversees the Innovation Portal competitions.
Thank you, Ann. Good morning, everybody. Before I get going, I want to check on a few things. One, that you can see my screen and you can see the presentation moving around a little bit on my screen, and then that you can hear me and you can find the chat box. So if you can, please send me a message in the chat box to make sure I successfully unmuted. All right, we got at least one yes, so it sounds like I was successful. Thank you. Sometimes I talk to myself and then don't realize it for a while, so thank you. The session is going to be recorded today. I've already started the recording, so if you have any specific, there's a little bit of time before you'll get the actual portfolios that you are reviewing, and if you have any questions about how to access them or want to look back on this training demonstration, you're going to have a private YouTube link sent to you for this exact presentation that you're attending now, so you can go back and reference, maybe just slide it, not watch the whole thing again, but slide it to the point where you have a question and you can see it, so you'll have that available to you. So I want to cover a few things that we're going to be doing today. Before I jump to the next slide, though, innovation@pltw.org is the email address to get support or help with anything Innovation Portal related. Ryan and myself have access to that email, and we keep that monitored pretty tightly so we can respond to any concerns or help anyone out that is having issues on the Innovation Portal. If it's a question more specific to this competition, you can also just go directly to Anne. But if it's something about your account, you can take it to us as well, and we can help you out with that. So we're going to cover 8 things today. The first 2 I think you've already done by registering in the competition. When you visit the Innovation Portal, there's only a few browsers that are compatible with it, and actually any Microsoft products are not compatible with the Innovation Portal. We don't do testing with those just because of compatibility issues. If you visit whatismybrowser.com, it'll tell you if you need to update your browser. We designed for the most current and updated versions of Chrome, Safari, and Mozilla Firefox. So if you're using one of those 3 browsers, you should be good to go on the Innovation Portal. Microsoft products like Internet Explorer or Edge may work, but we also are aware of some particular bugs, and we're not sure exactly what the user experience would be if you use those on the Innovation Portal, so we recommend not using them. So I think we've already created an Innovation Portal account. All accounts on the Innovation Portal are the same. You manage permissions underneath that account, so you should create the same account that a student creates. You just get an invite from Anne to give you the special privileges for this competition as a judge. When you register on the Innovation Portal, you have to send Anne the exact email address that you used to register on it, and using that, she can send an invitation to your account that you can accept either through email or logging on to the Innovation Portal directly and accepting the invitation. So the next things that we're going to cover, I think you may or may not know if you've judged in prior years. I'm going to do a pretty broad overview of how the online system works, both for the student perspective, Anne's perspective, and then you as a judge, how do you fit in that bigger picture? What are the specific things that you are doing, and how are you enabling students to get to do this work on the Innovation Portal? I'm going to show you how to access the portfolios assigned to you. You won't have access right now until Anne actually pushes those out to you. Right now we're in a phase where students are submitting their work, and so we don't have that work to give you. So I'm going to show you how to access them once you are assigned them. I'm going to show you about the rubric that you're going to be using. It's a pretty extensive rubric that's been developed by engineering education professionals, both at the K-12 and the education and at the college level. It's been validated through a couple different processes. It got started, the research was done through an NSF grant, so it's a pretty robust tool to make sure that any evaluator such as yourself coming to evaluate student work will at least come to similar scores and by using the same measurement tool, which is that rubric, to evaluate student work. I'm going to show you how to access that rubric in a couple different ways, and then I'm going to show you a really powerful tool integrated into the rubric, which is the scored examples. That is a really good judging resource. It is the baseline of student work that you can use to set a baseline expectation for how you should be evaluating student work. In a virtual format, it's a little bit more complicated to judge like this, because if you were in person judging a science fair, you'd be able to walk around the room and kind of get a feel for all of the work and set a baseline of expectations. But in a virtual format, if you're assigned 3 portfolios to review, those may be the top 3 portfolios, or they may be near the bottom in terms of student quality work, and you don't really know that, so you don't know how to set that expectation. These scored examples will set that baseline for you and kind of give you a rough, actually pretty precise guide for what level of work that we're looking for and how to evaluate that student work. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how to submit your scores to Anne. You'll need to do that by April 15th to get those scores counted into the competition. And I'm going to show you the process that you can do that on the Innovation Portal, how you can submit those scores. And then just a reminder, innovation@pltw.org. If you have any questions about using the Innovation Portal or have any issues with your account, don't know where to go, we can help you out. So getting connected to the competition, how do we do that? The first step is to create the account, and I think most of you have done that, create an account on the Innovation Portal. Once you've created your account and verified it through an email validation, you can you can send the email address that you use to register to Anne. You can use a work address, you can use a personal address. We don't really care as long as we know the exact email address that that you are using on the Innovation Portal, because when Anne sends that invitation to you, she needs that exact email address to match it up with your Innovation Portal account. She'll send you an invitation. That invitation will come both as an email, which was similar to the activation email from the Innovation Portal, directly to your email address. Sometimes you have to check the spam folder of your email. It is an automated email, which sometimes you need to check the spam or trash box if your email's filtering that out for you. And so you can look that invitation, click that link, and that will connect you to the competition. That link is only a one-time use link, so if you click it more than once, you might hit an error when you load the Innovation Portal, and it'll look like either a 404 or a 500 internal server error. But if you're hitting that error, that means you've already accepted it and you're already a judge, and so that link is no longer live for you to use. So you can do that through the email, or you can log in directly to the Innovation Portal and accept the invitation through the interface of the Innovation Portal. And I can show you today, once we dive into that, how to verify that you're actually a judge in the competition too. So you can do a self-check to make sure that clicking the link worked, or accepting the Innovation Portal invitation worked. So that's the accepting stage, when you either click on the email or go through the navigation window in the Innovation Portal. So then that will make you connected to the competition. You won't have access to student work yet, because the first step is to connect you to the competition, and then once all the students turn in the work, then we distribute portfolios to you at April 1st. So coming up here pretty soon, but you won't have access quite yet.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here for just a moment. So what I have done for the judges that are online is I've used the email that you used when you signed up on the short volunteer survey. And so if you have not received that email, I would just encourage you to log into your Innovation Portal account and accept the email. Like, he'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. And if you have any problems at all, send me a quick email. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. And if you have any questions, you feel free. We're a small enough group today that feel free to unmute yourself, ask a question, or if you want to, you can put it in the chat box, and then I'll stop once in a while, pause, and address those questions. So competition perspective, big picture with the competition. How is that run? So the first step for students is to register to the competition. All that does is give Anne the contact information for the student and let her know that they're planning on submitting something to the competition. So she can send reminder emails and stay up to date with students and ask them, hey, it's time to submit your portfolio. So then the submission window for students to finalize their work, and then in the case of the engineering EDD capstone course, they're doing work starting early fall. So they've been working on this all year. For biomedical, it's a little bit different. They take a window of time and work on a shorter time frame. But the submission window for both competitions is from March 14th to the 31st. So they have one more day to get their work in to submit their final work to the competition. Once they're ready to submit, they take their portfolio and put it into the bucket, which is the competition, as a submission. And there's going to be a lot of these. I think over 100 for the engineering, maybe just under 100 for the biomedical, but quite a bit in this competition, so it's a pretty big competition. Then on April 1st, or whenever we finalize those, make sure that I'll talk with the teachers, make sure we get all the submissions in. Then Anne will click a button to automatically distribute those portfolios out to you as a judge. So you'll have somewhere between 3 and 5 portfolios to evaluate. That number changes a little bit based on how many judges we have and how many students finally submit work. Just because they register doesn't mean that means they'll submit. So it's kind of a guesswork game to know how many submissions we'll actually receive. So I think with this competition you'll receive somewhere between 3 and 4, but typically when talking to volunteers we say 3 to 5. So that'll take about 3 to 5 hours to do, about 1 per hour with each portfolio. The first one will take longer just because the rubric is pretty extensive, and it might take you some time to read through the rubric and learn how to use it. And then each portfolio you evaluate after the first one will probably take a little bit less than an hour. So we distribute those portfolios out to all judges. Each portfolio that that a student submits will be evaluated at least 3 times by different people, just to make sure we're getting general agreement on evaluating the portfolio. If we have a big discrepancy in scores, we might take a look at it, but we at least want it looked at 3 times by 3 different judges to come to a common agreement about what the score should be on that portfolio. And then on April 15th, it's time to package your scores up and send them back to Anne, and then she can rank each portfolio to know which one's in first place, second place, third place, and on down the line. It auto-calculates based on the scores. So from a student perspective, a student can make a portfolio, and actually any user can create a portfolio on the innovation portal, so free to use. Once they create a portfolio, they can invite a project partner. They can invite as many project partners as they want to help collaborate on that work. They both could edit on it, or multiple people could edit different aspects of the portfolio. They also can invite their teacher, and those permissions would be a little bit different. A teacher might want to see the work but not actually make edits to the work. Like I said, some of the students are working since early fall on these portfolios, and so the teacher might schedule check-in times where they log in, see where the student work is at, and make sure it's progressing in an appropriate way. And then what's really neat is they can also invite project mentors to evaluate their portfolio in advance to give them feedback. So both helping them look forward to the next section and also evaluate the work and use the exact rubric that you're going to be using to evaluate the student work. The project mentors can evaluate the work that the students have accomplished so far and submit those scores back to the students to kind of give them an idea of where their work stands currently, how does it match up in that rubric? What kind of score could they expect by submitting it to a competition? So a pretty neat process. It's the exact same process that you're going to be using as a judge, except your scores will go into a competition where the project mentor's scores go back to the student as feedback. So once the students are pretty well satisfied with their portfolio and the work that they've done, they can submit it to a competition and other opportunities on the innovation portal. And what's really neat is if they're eligible to enter to multiple competitions, they can take that same work that they worked on for an entire year in the capstone course and submit that to multiple competitions. And then they can create more portfolios. You're not limited to just one. You can create as many portfolios as you want. And so the beauty of a digital tool is you can create as many as you want and create these portfolios with different groups, maybe in one class versus another class. So with that, I'm going to pause really quickly, and while I'm logging in here to the innovation portal to give you a demonstration about how to do this process, I want to pause for any questions, see if you guys have anything that you'd like to ask at this point. All right, I'll go ahead and move on. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me or type something in the chat box. So the first step to evaluate the reviews that you get assigned is to log into the innovation portal. The first page that you get to will look something like this. On the left-hand sidebar is your navigation on the innovation portal, and it starts you in the My Portfolios, because that's mostly what people are doing when they log into the innovation portal, is wanting to work on their portfolio. Your main usage though is not that, so you're a little bit special, not a student logging in to do work. If you create a portfolio on your account, this page will change drastically, and you'll start listing the portfolios that you have access to. So if you create your own portfolio, it'll look different than this. On the left-hand side, I want to point out My Notifications. If you click on that, this is where you can accept either the invitation email. You can accept the invitation from Anne to be a judge. It'll be listed here, and you'll also receive notifications when you get assigned student work. So this is an example of a notification of being assigned student work. So this is the name of the portfolio that you've been assigned and the competition that you've been invited, that you're already a judge in. Will be listed here. So you should get these April 1st once all the students submit their work. But let's go into the left-hand menu bar again and go down to opportunities. Opportunities are where all the competitions live. We call it opportunities because there's other things going on in here too, not only competitions. We use these opportunities to load student work for evaluation for patent research. We have some of the competitions as a prize offer student work being evaluated by professionals that do market analysis and patent research on the topic. And so we share the work with those professionals here. So the first page that we're on here are all the current opportunities. These are all the opportunities that and competitions that are live for student submission right now. And so it's only the stuff that is currently relevant. So we have, looks like 4 competitions live right now, two in Kansas City, 1 in Minnesota, and then a national competition hosted by Project Lead the Way as well. So these 2 are the competitions that you will be judges for, either biomedical or engineering. The only interesting thing is that these are going to change and move once you actually have student work assigned to them. So if you look up here, we have the filter by button, current and past. So these are currently current ones, but if we click past, we can see a lot of competitions from the prior year that have already occurred. The competition will switch buckets from current to past as soon as students can't submit work anymore. So in this case, they'll jump over Friday after they can't work, tomorrow actually. So when you log in to evaluate student work, you'll have to click this pass button to find it. So if we scroll down, we can see the last year's competition, the 2016 competitions. These 2 will disappear once the 2017 comes over here. I'll delete these just because we try to keep only 1 year prior of competitions in this pass bucket, just to avoid confusion. So these will not be 2016. The 2017 versions will be here starting Friday. Right now, though, we're going to jump into this training example competition just because we set this up to do this demonstration, and we can't show you the exact Kansas City one because students are currently working on that. So if we click into that, we actually load this training example competition. Not a lot of details here because there's really there's nothing going on other than using this for judge training. So I know I'm a judge on this account on this competition because of this bar up here, this menu bar for the competition. If you are not a judge, you will not see that bar. So that's the way you can verify that you have successfully been connected to the competition as a judge. Even right now, if you are a judge, if you click into the 2017 version of the competition, you'll see this menu bar. You'll be able to click reviews, but you won't have access to any of these reviews. So if we click reviews here, this is how we're going to access the student work assigned to us as a judge. So when we click reviews, this is the name of the account. Your name will be there when you log in. Right now we have 2 of 5 completed reviews. This is 5 pieces of example student work that we have in our inventory or library of student work that we use for training purposes. 2 reviews have already been completed because we've hosted 2 training sessions, and we're going to complete another one today. So this one is a good indicator for you to know how many you've done, how many you have assigned, where you're at. So lawnmower Kickstarter. This one's already complete. We've already completed this review here. We've also completed the cracked iPhone screen here, but the status is active for this e-waste portfolio. So we're going to click into that and do an evaluation of this portfolio today. So when we click on that, we start seeing student work. We can see that here. On the right-hand side, we have a new navigation window, and this is the rubric. And each section of student work. We liken this to a 3-ring binder. The portfolio cover page is like the plastic insert in the front of the 3-ring binder, and then these are like the tabs of student work. There could be multiple pages within each tab, but these are the categories that students are categorizing their work as. On the cover page, we can scroll down. Sometimes there's student content here. Sometimes this might be blank. There's nothing to evaluate here. You don't load a score for the cover page, and so sometimes students put pictures of themselves. Sometimes they put a summary picture of their project. Sometimes they type up a little executive summary. It could vary, but we're not going to evaluate anything on this page. To navigate to the next page, we're going to go over to that right-hand menu bar. Make sure A is highlighted. We can read presentation and justification of the problem. That's our first tab that we'll turn to in the 3-ring binder, and go ahead and click that. Then we have student work loaded. So this is actual student work. Then they've agreed to let us use this for a couple different uses. We have text in here. Sometimes we have links. Sometimes we have embedded video, and a lot of times we have pictures as well. So a lot of different content pieces are loaded into here. It's the the portfolio is kind of like a web page design tool, and so they can students can integrate a lot of different content into their portfolios. So this one looks like it's text heavy, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. So to evaluate this work, we can access the rubric in the right-hand menu bar as well. When we hover over A, we can see that the category is presentation and justification of the problem, really the first step on the engineering design cycle to make sure the problem that you're about to solve is worth solving. So if we click this drop down here, the reflective questions are listed here. I like to use this to know generally what content is going to be covered on this tab in the 3-ring binder. When I talk with students, I refer to this as a checklist for them. So kind of like a checklist to make sure they cover all these points. When you're judging, you can read these to get a clear concept for what's being covered, in a broad sense, what's being covered in this element A. So you can read through that to get a sense for what's being covered, then close that out to look at the specific evaluation criteria. So we have a score system for ranging from 0 to 5. There's a description underneath each score that you can load. There's a 0, there's a 1, there's a 2, 3, 4, 5. The text descriptors are designed to be an even step along each of these score descriptors, and so we like to think of this as a staircase of increasing scores. The steps should be the same height in between each staircase to make sure it's a nice linear line for a consistent difference. So the difference between 2 and 3 should be the same difference between 4 and 5. And on a staircase, you trip very easily if there's different size steps. But anyway, we try to keep that the same. A 5 is not perfect work, but a 5 is what this describes here. So each one of these score descriptors is what is required to get that score. And actually not quite exactly what's required to get that score, because it is possible for student work to fall somewhere in between a 3 and a 4. So if it meets most of the requirements for 3, pretty well it should be a 3, but it doesn't quite meet all of the requirements of a 4 and the work falls somewhere in between. It's your job to use discretion as a judge to figure out whether it should be a 3 or 4. We can only put 3 or 4. So student work doesn't necessarily have to meet all the requirements of a 4 to get a 4. It just has to be closer to a 4 than closer to a 3. And so feel free to use your discretion to either bump it up or bump it down if the student work is closer to one than the other. So you have these score descriptors, which are pretty clear, but then you also have another tool down here, which is the scored element example. So this is actual student work that's been evaluated by expert reviewers, and you have a commentary here for why it's received the score. So you have a sample of student work that gets a score of 3, and the commentary to describe why it gets a 3. Before I click on this, I want you to put your attention up in the upper left-hand part of my screen and note what happens. We load a new tab in a PDF file. Depending on your settings on your computer, it may be a little bit different. You might download a PDF. You might open a new window. It kind of depends on your settings, but by default, it'll open up a new tab in your browser, and you'll have this here. So this is element A, the highlight here, and a score of 3. And then the first thing you have here is a commentary for why this work received a score of 3. And actually, let's scroll down here to jump to the student work. So this is a screenshot of the student work that has been evaluated as a score of 3. So you can see the actual student work that was determined to get a 3. So pretty powerful tool here. You can see all the student work, all the links, all the images, and everything. This portfolio is from a portfolio where they were addressing a problem with LED traffic lights. LEDs are great because they use less energy, but in northern climates, they cause a problem in the winter because all that extra energy goes into heating the bulb, which is great if there's snow on your bulb because it melts it and it gets it away and you can see it, but in an LED, they're so efficient that snow and ice can build up on them, so that it was blocking the view of the traffic signal. So apparently it's a really big problem. This is the justification for the problem, and they're using a news article to cite it. Pretty neat project here. There's a wide disparity of different projects that students do, so it could be something that really interests you, or it could be like very specific and you not run into it before. But the whole point of A is to justify why it's a problem worth solving. So if we scroll back up, we have a paragraph or two describing why it received a score of 3. And so this commentary says, it does get a score of 3, but some people thought it should be a score of 4. And then here's a justification in between why it's a 3 or 4, and then it tells you where you're at in the entire rubric, and then where you're at on the score descriptors, ranging from 0 to 5 here. And this is the 3 highlighted. So pretty powerful work here. You have those for each element, for each score descriptor, so each one will have a scored element example. Pretty powerful tool for you to use as a judge. There's a few cases I think that they're not completely flushed out just because we didn't have enough student work to cover every single data point, but for the vast majority of the scored element examples are loaded there for you. So if we decide that this portfolio that we're evaluating should get a score of 3, when we click 3, it's not actually assigning a score of 3. That's just viewing the rubric as a 3. To actually input the score of 3, you have to go down here as a judge to your score sheet and click that little blue pen icon. And that opens up the score sheet, which is kind of like, going back to that science fair analogy, it's kind of like the piece of paper you get on a clipboard to walk around, and this is where you circle the scores or write down your comments and then submit it back to the scoring table. The window on the right is so that students and judges, you can just view the rubric and read it, but you actually load your scores here. And then if we click a score of 3, this is actually inputting our score as 3. If we click the plus button, we can view the rubric in another way and move that window around if you want to. Just another way to view it. Whatever works best for you, you can use. You can still see, click each score and see what the score descriptors are, and then move the window around, and if it gets too cluttered, you can close that as well, close it out. So when we click on 3, there's no save button because everything's automatically saved every couple microseconds on the Innovation Portal, so it already is saved, so there's no save button, including your comment. So if you want to write a comment here, here's a comment. This is saved automatically as you type it, so there's no save button. And if we close that out, maybe even navigate to B, jump back to A, you can see that it is saved. Here's a comment, and then your score of 3 is loaded there. A quick comment on comments. There's a couple different uses for them. I suggest putting at least a small comment in on each score. One use case of using comments is when, in the case of a very tight score between 2 different portfolios, especially near the top for first, second, third place. Sometimes the thing that pushes a portfolio up to first place over second place, when the scores are very, very similar, if they both got a lot of 4s and 5s, the thing that pushes one portfolio above the other are the judge comments, just talking about why it received that score. So something to keep in mind, that it may help Anne do that fine tuning at the end to determine first, second, third place. The other way your comments may be used is that we can provide these comments to the teachers of students to use as an instructional tool if they choose. We give it to the teachers just so they can do filtering and kind of make it more relevant to the students as to give them that feedback, so that can find their way back to students as formative comments for them. So that's at least 2 different ways your comments can be used. And I suggest, even if it's a small comment, just putting something in there about what you're thinking as you're putting the score in. So there's a score 3. We've loaded that one. Let's close that one down here and then move on to B. Click that. We can read the reflective questions here. We can close that window, read all the score descriptors here, and then also look at the scored element examples. So here's actually that LED traffic light here. Again, if we open this up, this is the same portfolio but a different element and a different score. So it received a 2 on this element based on the student work here. And that's actually a good note. That's actually a good note. The student work on one element to the other is unique, and you only evaluate the work in the element for the score of that element. So as a judge, you may know that there's other information in another element, but what we ask you to do is only evaluate the work that's loaded into that element for that element. So only the content here. So if we scroll down, only this content to receive the score on this element B. And then as a quick note, sometimes we do hit cases where students either accidentally submit a portfolio with blank content, maybe because they just haven't finished it, maybe because they submitted it and then realized they submitted the wrong portfolio. Things happen. So you can submit a score of 0, and then I would suggest also just sending an FYI email to Anne so that she knows. And in that case, you might not evaluate the whole portfolio if she knows that the student submitted work that and then submitted a portfolio that was accidentally blank in a place and then submitted a different one to the competition. So just send an FYI email, but also submit a score of 0. Actually put 0 in there if it's blank. So that's element B. To actually put the score in, we can open up this pin icon. Let's say they did a little bit better on this element, put a score of 4, and then another comment in here. Type that, we can close that score sheet, and then let's go to C. Maybe C was blank, so we'll put a score as 0. A question mark does count as a 0, but if we prefer if it's blank, just so that we know that you've seen it, and intentionally put a 0 in is clicking that 0 if it's blank, so moving it from that question mark. So that's what we're going to do for each section. Two exceptions to something I've already told you is that M and N are always going to be blank. These are holistic portfolio scoring tools for you as a judge, but students don't actually load any content here. M addresses the general presentation of it, style and tone, and then N is specifically looking at their writing style and like they're writing like an engineer with technical writing. So these are relevant to the entire portfolio. So taken after reading through elements A through L, just take a look at the entire portfolio as a whole and then load a score into M and N with this score sheet for the entire portfolio. So it will be blank here. So you don't need to put a 0 for M and N because they're blank. So once we've run through each element here, to actually complete it, we can click Complete Review. What that button did is bring us to a page which is kind of like the Amazon shopping cart. It's like your last chance to make a decision. We can see a summary of what we've done. So on element A, we can see the comment here, and we can also see the score that we've loaded in. We can see the 4. We can see that 0 and each comment. At this point, if there's a question mark, that's your indicator to know that you forgot an element and you need to go back. So on your browser, you can hit the back button, maybe jump into element E that we forgot something on, and then load a score of whatever it is. Close that and then Complete Review. So then we see that 2 show up here. So for right now, let's pretend that all these question marks are numbers here and move on. We can scroll down. At this point, this is your last chance to make a change on this portfolio. At some point, we need to finalize scores, and so we do force a point where you have to turn it in and then make no changes. So I liken clicking this button here to kind of putting the stamp on an envelope before dropping it in the mail. Going back to the science fair analogy, this is like turning in the scores to the training to the scoring table without the chance to actually make any changes. So we click that to put the stamp on and then click Complete Review to finalize everything. At this point, you won't be able to make any changes now. So we did the e-waste portfolio here. You can see that it's now tagged as complete in reviews. On the left-hand menu bar, we're under My Reviews. These are all the reviews for every single opportunity. If this is your first time judging, the only reviews that will show up here are for this competition. If this is your second or third year judging, or if you've judged another competition, you may have multiple reviews from multiple competitions here. You can filter it by active and complete to just show the active ones. These are the ones you need to do, and these are the complete ones that you've already done. If we click on e-waste, after completing the review, we can still see the student content. There's that recycling thing on the portfolio page. We can click A and see all that student content, but what is missing is that blue icon to actually write a score in there. And then if we can even see the work that we've done for evaluation. We can see on A, we gave them the score 3, 4, we just can't change it. So we'll always have access to this review. We can always see it, but we won't be able to put a score in. If we go back to review, you can see the student work. So let's jump one more time through opportunities to show you that navigation again. You go to opportunities. Here are the 2017 competitions, engineering and biomed, but these won't be in this current tab. Once you have things assigned to you, you'll need to click this pass button. They'll show up here and replace these 2016 competitions. If we go into training example and click reviews, we can see all the reviews assigned to us within this competition, and we can see how many we have accomplished. So earlier it's 2 out of 5, now it's 3 out of 5. We know we've accomplished a little bit more work, and we can see the e-waste is complete here. We can also click this again to view that student work the same way. So with that, I'm about to wrap up. I'm going to show you a few assets that we're going to share with you. But if there's any other questions about interface or clicking, I want to take this opportunity to answer any of those questions. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. If you have any questions at any time with interface, you can reach out directly to innovation@plcw.org or to Ann, depending on whether it's more specific competition related or if it's innovation portal related. You're going to be receiving actually 4 different assets, but 3 different text assets from Ann through email. The first one is a PDF step-by-step guide for judges. What this one covers is how to log in and where to click to find the reviews assigned to you. So pretty quick, small PDF document with screenshots to show you where to click. The second document you're going to be getting is kind of a summary of that rubric. If you wanted to in advance, you could look through that to see what content is covered, what the engineering design process is, how we're evaluating students following a process, but you don't have all the score indicators. You have the element description, you have the reflective questions, it's kind of like broad content that's covered under each element, and then it's the 5 score point, what it takes to get a perfect score, even if it's not perfect work. And then moving on to the last document you're going to be getting is a pretty large PDF document that is the entire rubric, the entire engineering design process portfolio scoring rubric, or EDPPSR. And there's a quick summary about the theory behind using the rubric. The reason we're sending it to you, though, is so that you can either print this out and use it as a resource, or you could, if you have 2 monitors, you could put it on one monitor while you're evaluating student work, or you could not. You could just use the interface on the innovation portal if you prefer to do it that way. But we've had judges that have preferred to print out the rubric and then load the scores on the innovation portal, or put it on a different screen. So whatever you choose to do, you can use that PDF document as you wish. And with that, I think that kind of concludes my my section. I'm going to pass it back to Ann after saying thank you. I know you're volunteering time. This is what you're doing is making it possible for students to get recognition outside their classroom. It's an opportunity for students to take their work outside the classroom, make it relevant to real projects in industry, and a lot of times students are taking their work and engaging with professionals outside the classroom and doing some really great work, and this is a good opportunity to recognize that work that they're doing and get recognition through this competition, and none of that would have been possible without the work that you're doing as a judge here and volunteering with us. So thank you very much for your time. I know it's not easy what we're asking you to do, but just want to say thank you, and with that I'll pass it back to Ann.
Awesome. Thank you, Elliot. And just kind of as a follow-up to the competition, the students actually have the opportunity to win scholarship money. So the top 3 winners, each team will receive, the first place is $2,500, second place is $1,500, and third place is $1,000. So if there are multiple people on the team, then they split that scholarship prize, but it's real money for them. So I take the scoring very seriously, especially at the end. And as Elliot had mentioned, if you can put a couple of comments on some of the comment areas, that does help me quite a bit if I have a project that is one of the top projects in helping me differentiate. So just a few closing comments, and then again, I do want the biomed people to stand for just a few minutes. But you may, as Elliot mentioned, you may see some disparity in the quality, and so I would just, my recommendation to you is just to be consistent. with your scoring, and to either reference the scored examples or use your best assessment in terms of how you would like to score that. And as long as you're being consistent across the 3 or 4 projects that you're looking at, then overall we should be in good shape in terms of having a little bit of consistency across all of the judging. And I do want to invite you again, if you would like to join us for the showcase, you're more than welcome to come. You should have received an invitation from me yesterday. That is on the 19th at Union Station, and it's kind of neat. A lot of the judges have commented that they enjoy being able to come and actually see the projects in person. So you're cordially invited if you're available that day. And then also, if you notice anything unusual as you are going through a project, if you have a lot of blanks, or sometimes, like last year we had a couple of students who didn't understand how to upload their projects, and they uploaded everything into one element. If you run across something like that, just send me a quick email, and I'll assess on my end whether or not we want to try to have the student resubmit. But we've tried very hard to get all of the kids introduced to the Innovation Portal earlier this year, so we hope that we won't run into any of those problems. So very good. Well, thank you all so much for taking some time out of your morning, and hopefully if you have any other questions, you can either reference the YouTube link and or the materials we'll be sending you tomorrow. So have a great day. Okay, so we will likely lose a couple of our engineering folks, but to my biomed judges, I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the rubric. So as you have noticed as we've gone through the session, the rubric that Elliot has been referring to is an engineering design process rubric. And currently, that is the only rubric that we have that is working, that is enabled through the Innovation Portal technology. We are working with National Project Lead the Way to develop a rubric that is a little bit more specifically designed for the biomed projects and the experimental design project or process. But right now we don't have that ready to go. So in the interim, what we have done is taken the engineering rubric, which has been validated by multiple multiple researchers and teachers that have weighed in on that process. But we've taken that rubric and adapted it, adapted some of the language. It keeps the core part of the rubric the same, but we've just sort of added some of the experimental design language so that it makes a little bit more sense for students that are looking at the rubric, and hopefully for judges. So the rubric that you will see inside the portal when you click on the tabs will be the engineering design rubric, but the one that I send you on the email that you could print out will be slightly edited with that different language. And as you'll see, they really it follows the same process, but it may bring a little bit more clarity if you have confusion. And it's mostly for the students so that they see kind of what's being asked for in each one of those elements. I will still say that it's not perfect, and so last year I know we had some students who had sort of done their experiment separately without looking at the rubric, and so then when they went to complete the Innovation Portal portfolio, they were sort of retrofitting parts of their experiment into what they thought fit for the portal rubric, and so it doesn't always fit. So what I would say in that situation is still grade each element based on the rubric, and just do the best you can. It's just unfortunately not a perfect process, and we try to get the students to look at the rubric and write to the rubric, and last year we did have students that did that, and they were the ones that scored the best and won the competition. So part of it is a learning process for them. And again, so we will give you access to the winning projects, and that way you'll have a sense of kind of what those look like. Are there any questions about, and do I have anybody who's still, looks like
I think
I don't have any.
Helen is still on, I think.
Okay. Are you,
Or
Helen, do you have any questions? I think she might have already popped off.
Yeah, actually she's there, but offline.
Oh, okay. Well, Helen, if you're still there and you can hear me, please just let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ann.
Sure.